Welcome back class 7 to the online bio classes. Today we will continue with the same chapter number 4, plant life, which we are studying, and in today's topic we are going to study about significance of photosynthesis. In the previous class already I have said photosynthesis is a biological process or physiochemical process, you can write, in which plants prepare their own food using sunlight, carbon dioxide and water. And one of the important requirements of photosynthesis is chlorophyll. Chlorophyll is the pigment which gives green color to the plants. It is found in the leaves and all the green parts of the plant. And it is present in a plastid which is called chloroplast. So chloroplast is the name of a plastid and chlorophyll is the name of the pigment. Okay. Then we had also done the equation. What equation of photosynthesis? In which carbon dioxide plus water in the presence of air was given, sunlight and chlorophyll gives glucose, that is C6H12O6 plus carbon dioxide plus water. Oxygen and water. So oxygen is also produced as a byproduct of photosynthesis. And this oxygen is very much important because all the living things depend on the plants to get their food as well as oxygen. So today we will study about the importance of photosynthesis. Photosynthesis is one of the most important biological process which occurs on this earth. And it is because of this all the living things are able to get their food, are able to get the oxygen to breathe. So without photosynthesis, it was not possible for all the living things to get their food. Now you know that plants depend on sunlight to get their, from sunlight the plants will get the energy, solar energy, which is captured by the chlorophyll present in their leaves, and the plants will prepare their food. So plants are also called producers. Because they make their own food, plants are called producers. So producers in an ecosystem is the green plants, which make their own food by the process of photosynthesis. Now these green plants or the producers are eaten by herbivores. So herbivores are those organisms which feed on the plants like deer, goat, okay? All the plant eating animals are called herbivores. And these herbivores or the plant eaters are eaten by the flesh eaters which are known as carnivores. C-A-R-N-I-V-O-R-E-S. Example, lion, tiger and all. So you can see energy is passed from one place to the other, from sun to the carnivores. So this transfer of energy from one organism to the another in the form of a chain is called food chain. So what is food chain? Food chain is the transfer of energy. Food chain is transfer of energy in the form of food. Transfer of energy in the form of food from one organism to another. From one organism to another. From one organism to another. In this food chain, one organism is eaten by the other. Like grass is eaten by goat, goat is eaten by lion. So you can see it is a simple food chain. Okay, simple food chain means in which 2 to 3 organisms are present. Now, the plants represent an important component that is part of ecosystem. They are called the producers or autotrophs because they can make their own food. So first trophic level of the food chain is the green plants. It is the plants which represent or which are present in the first trophic. Trophic means food. So in a food chain different levels are there, like producers are there, primary consumers are there, then secondary consumers, tertiary consumers. So if I write on the top the green plants, then below that, so down if I write here plants, the producers, after that next one is primary consumers. Primary consumers are also called the herbivores. Then we have secondary consumers like this tertiary consumers top. So like this you can see one organism is eaten by the other. So at the base of the food chain we have the green plants or the producers. Producers are the one which make their own food. So first trophic level of the food chain is the producers. Green plants are called the producers. Okay. So when you draw a food chain, first will be the producers, then the primary consumers, then secondary consumers, then tertiary consumers, and so on. Now the next one is a food chain is a series of processes in which one organism is eaten by the other one, and that organism is again in turn eaten by the next one. So like this, all of them are linked together in a chain-like fashion, isn't it? Like here the green plants eaten by goat or the herbivores, and the herbivores are eaten by carnivores. So all of them are linked together. You may have studied the food web also. What is food web? When one organism is eaten by more than one, like grass or the green plants can be eaten by goat also, by deer also, by camel also, by elephant also. So one particular is eaten by many, and those organisms are further eaten by many more organisms. So what happens is all the food chains get interlocked and they form a web-like structure. Means such a situation in which all the food chains crisscross each other is called a food web. So how to define it? A network of food chain is called a food web, W-E-B, web. Just like a spider web is there, no, in which many threads are there. Similarly, in a food web, many food chains are interlinked to each other. Okay. Now next we have to do is photosynthesis is the only natural process by which solar energy is captured and it is converted into chemical energy of the food, and it is also the process by which organic food is synthesized by using inorganic materials like carbon dioxide is non-living thing, even water is also non-living thing. So using the non-living materials, a living material or a food is synthesized, organic food is synthesized. Now next point, energy of the sunlight which was captured by the green plants that were living earlier, thousands of years ago, they have been preserved by the plants, and when those plants, the early plants, they died, they were covered by the layers of the earth, and due to high heat and temperature and pressure, those green plants get converted into coal, petrol, diesel, and even the fossil fuel, other fossil fuels. So we can say indirectly, the fossil fuels which we use today like coal, petrol, diesel, whatever may be, they are the energy sources which has been brought from the sun and that has been preserved in the form of fossil fuels like coal, okay, petroleum and natural gas. So these fuels are used for our domestic use, that is in our home, or for factories also, that is industrial use is also there. Now next significance of photosynthesis is the oxygen gas which is produced during photosynthesis is required by all the animals to breathe, because we breathe oxygen, we take in air containing a mixture of gases, out of which oxygen is absorbed into our lungs, and from the lungs the oxygen enters into the bloodstream, that is in the blood vessels, and through the blood oxygen is transported to each and every body cells. Okay, and there inside the body cells, oxygen combines with the glucose, which is also present in the blood due to digestion of food. So when glucose and oxygen combines, it produces energy by a process called respiration. So the oxygen which is produced by photosynthesis, it helps to maintain the balance of oxygen and carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. Now last point, the oxygen is used by animals and plants for cellular respiration. If there is no photosynthesis or in the absence of photosynthesis, there will be no oxygen, that is the atmospheric oxygen level will decrease and the life on the earth will become impossible. Now one experiment is there to show that oxygen is produced during photosynthesis. We can do this experiment. We have to take an aquatic plant, keep it in a beaker. This is a glass beaker. In the lab we have the glass beaker. We have to take an aquatic plant which is called hydrilla and keep it inside a test tube. Now we will cover it with the help of a conical flask. Conical flask, you know, like this it is. So like this conical flask, we have to keep it covered by a conical flask like this. Okay, and water is present in it. And now we'll keep this apparatus outside in the sunlight, and we'll cover this one with a test tube. Okay, a test tube will be kept inserted upside down. When we'll keep this plant, this is the hydrilla plant which is used. It is an aquatic plant, hydrilla. So when we keep the hydrilla plant in a beaker and cover it with a conical flask, this is the conical flask made up of glass, all are glass apparatus only, and then we cover the tip of the flask with the help of a test tube. This one is a test tube. Okay, and keep this apparatus in the sunlight. When sunlight will fall, this green plant or the hydrilla will start carrying out the process of photosynthesis. As a result, oxygen gas is produced. So we can see the bubbles coming outside. Bubbles will be produced, and these bubbles will rise up. So when we start noticing the bubbles, once we see the bubbles coming from this plant, you can understand that these are nothing else but the oxygen gas which is produced by this hydrilla plant due to photosynthesis. Got it? So from this experiment, it is confirmed that the green plants produce oxygen during photosynthesis. Now some questions are there on page number 76. Fill in the blanks. I will say the answer. You can mark it in your book. Okay, be ready. Number 1. The process by which, I will write it here also. Okay. So now the questions on page 76. In text question is there. Fill in the blanks. Number 1. What is the question? The process by which an organism takes in food and uses it to produce energy for growth and development is called nutrition. So nutrition is the correct answer. Nutrition and digestion both are given there. Digestion is not the correct answer here. Number 2, water and gas are the raw materials for photosynthesis. Carbon dioxide, not oxygen. Oxygen is not a raw material. Oxygen is a product, byproduct. So water and carbon dioxide are the raw materials for photosynthesis. Number 3, the chlorophyll pigment is present within the organelles called chloroplast. So answer is chloroplast. The next one is there, that is chromoplast is incorrect answer. Chromoplast gives color to flowers and fruits. Then number 4, our atmosphere gets dash by oxygen during photosynthesis, replenished, not depleted. Because of photosynthesis, oxygen is added in the atmosphere, not removed. So the word depleted means removed. So because of photosynthesis, oxygen is not depleted, it is replenished. Replenished means added. So REPLENISHED, replenished. This meaning of this word is it is added or it is produced. Replenished. And the last question, number 5. Only dash of the water absorbed by the roots is utilized in photosynthesis. Means out of total amount of water absorbed by the roots, only 1%, so not 100%, that 1% is the correct answer. So you can write these answers in your copy, and this fill in the blanks also in copy as homework. Okay. Now next we have to do is heterotrophic nutrition. Okay, so next we have to do is, the next topic is heterotrophic nutrition. Hetero means, trophic means food. So those organisms that cannot make their own food and depends on others for their food is called heterotrophs, and this type of nutrition is called heterotrophic nutrition. Like we human beings and the other animals, all the animals are unable to prepare their own food. So they have to depend on plants or other animals to get their food. So they are called heterotrophs. Okay? Even parasites are also heterotrophs. Scavengers are also heterotrophs. because they are unable to prepare their own food. So hetero means another and trophs means to feed or to get the food. Most plants are autotrophs because the plants are called autotrophs, means self-troph means food. They can prepare their food themselves. That's why plants are called autotrophs. But animals are called heterotrophs because they have to depend on the green plants to get their food. They cannot prepare their food. Preparing food in the kitchen is not autotroph because indirectly you are using all those raw materials which are produced by the plants. Like if you are cooking rice, from where did you got the rice? The rice is obtained from the plants. So you are not making rice, you are just cooking it. So that is not autotrophs, okay? Cooking of food and preparation of food, that is different thing. Plants prepare their own food, not the human beings or the other animals. So heterotrophic nutrition is of different types. What are they? Number one, parasitic nutrition. So what we are studying about? We are studying about heterotrophs. So it is of different types. Number one we are studying is parasites. Parasitism. One word is there, parasitism or parasitic. Better to say parasitic mode of nutrition. So how to define the word parasite? Parasite are those living organisms that cannot make their own food, of course, because they are coming under heterotrophs. So they will live on the body of other organisms, take shelter and get food from them without providing any benefit to the organism. Like tapeworm, which lives in the intestine of human beings, is a parasite. It lives in our intestine, gets shelter in our intestine and consume the food which we eat without giving any benefit to us. They cause harm to us. Such organisms are called heteroparasites. So in your book also given, and organisms live on means it can live outside also, like pig, lice and all, or inside your body of another living organisms is called a host. So like tapeworm is guest and the body in which it lives, like if it lives in my body, so I am the host. And the one who is living inside, that is the tapeworm, it is called the guest. To obtain nutrition directly from the host body. Example, in case of plants, if you ask, give one name of parasitic plants. Example is dodder. Dodder is a parasitic plant. It grows on the body of other plants. So you may have seen that on the body of very big and fat tall trees, some parasitic plants will also grow or coil around it. They will coil around it. They are taking support on that plant, getting food from that plant and living there only. Such plants are parasitic. Okay? Dodder has special roots which enter inside the host body, and that is called haustoria. Haustoria. So if asked what is haustoria? Haustoria is a root developed in the parasitic plants that helps to obtain nutrients from the host body. Okay, it will reach up to their conducting tissue from where they will extract the food. So they want to eat the food. So they cannot make their own food because they are parasites. So they will develop special roots which are called haustoria that will penetrate, that is enter inside the body of the host cell, and from there they will suck the nutrients which is needed for their survival. Now next we have the saprophytic nutrition. What is saprophyte? Saprophytes are those living organisms which derive their nutrition from the dead and decaying organic matter. Like some organisms are called saprophytes, like bacteria and fungi are saprophytes because they cannot make their own food, and they will be found growing on the dead plants and dead animals, and they will help to change the complex organic molecule into simpler inorganic compounds which can be used by them. Not only that, these saprophytes, like some flowering plants are there, Indian pipe, they do not have chlorophyll. So they carry out photosynthesis. So its roots contain fungus which secrete digestive juice in the surrounding, that helps to decay the organic matter. So juice breaks down the organic matter into simpler nutrients which the plants will absorb. So Indian pipe is the name of a saprophytic plant. So next one is saprophytic nutrition. So what is parasitic and saprophytic? Both of them are heterotrophs. This heterotrophic mode of nutrition. In both of them, the plants cannot prepare their own food. Example of saprophytes, Indian. That name of the plant is given no? Indian pipe. It is a saprophytic plant. It will release enzymes, help to digest the materials which are present near the roots of the plant, and the plants will absorb those nutrients along with their roots. Then we have the third type of nutrition, which is called symbiotic nutrition. What is symbiosis? Symbiosis is a mutual relationship. So next class we can do it. Okay, we'll complete up to symbiotic insectivorous. So what is symbiosis? It is a mutual relationship between two organisms in which both of them are equally benefited. For example, you can see rhizobium is the name of a bacteria. Where is this bacteria found? It is found in the roots of leguminous plants. So like this is the roots. Here at the tip, rhizobium bacteria is found. Rhizobium. In the which plants? In the roots of leguminous plants. Means those plants which produces the legumes. Okay? Like in the pulses. Pulses, dal. Like in the gram, in the chickpea, all those pulses-bearing plants, in their roots, they contain a nitrogen-fixing bacteria called rhizobium. So what is the benefit to the plant? This rhizobium bacteria will change the atmospheric nitrogen, that is a gaseous nitrogen, into soluble nitrates. So now nitrogen in the form of liquid soluble nitrates will be absorbed by the roots of the plants, and the plants will absorb it and take it to make proteins, plant proteins, which is required for the growth and development of plants. So in the process of symbiosis, both the plants as well as the bacteria are benefited. So this type of relationship between two organisms in which both the partners are equally benefited is called symbiosis. Got it? Now next one is insectivorous plants. Insectivorous plants, there are certain plants which grow in a soil that is deficient in nitrogen. In order to fulfill the deficiency of nitrogen, they will start trapping and killing the insects. They will digest the insect to supply the nutrients, that is protein, inside their body. Example of such plants, they are partially autotrophic and partially heterotrophic also, because they can prepare their own food. They are not doing this because they cannot make their food. They are partially autotrophic, means they can make their own food also. But why they are heterotrophic? Because in order to get or compensate the loss of nitrogen in their body, they are not getting nitrogen because they are growing in such a soil which is deficient in nitrogen. To fulfill that deficiency, they trap the insects and kill them and digest them. Okay? Now, like all the green plants, they have the green leaves to carry out photosynthesis. They grow in nitrogen deficient soil, already mentioned in the book. In order to satisfy their nitrogen demand, they start to trap the insects by different methods, in which there is modification in their leaves, like pitcher plant, in which the leaves develops into a pitcher-like. Pitcher, the water in which the water is stored, and the tip of the leaf acts like a lid. So whenever an insect will sit here, this pitcher will close and the insect will get inside. And here we have the digestive juices which are secreted. So insect will be killed and it will be digested and absorbed by the plants. So similarly, there are other examples also. They have bladder rods in which Venus fly trap. They are the examples of prickly pear and sundew. All these are the examples of insect eating plants. Okay? So today up to here only. In the next class we can continue with the topic respiration. So today's homework already I have given, but still you can learn all these definitions of parasitic, saprophytic, symbiotic, alright, and insectivorous plants, So after watching the video, you must like and comment. Okay, thank you.